The next fireside chat was with Rorisang Tandekiso. After that day, I said to her, when the anointing on your life is unmatched. Like it's undeniable that you walk with God. It's undeniable that you commune with God. It's not just a walk. Even when they are sitting, she sits with God, that girl. When she's sleeping, God is there. Yeah, she's wrong. God is there. But her whole life is proof and testament that she walks with the Lord. And so she even said, her very first statement was, it is a privilege to be used by and to walk with God. And I was speaking to another friend of mine, Upabi, and she was saying a similar thing. If only people realized what a privilege it is to partner with God, what a privilege it is to say yes and for God to use your skills, your brain, your heart, your mouth, your body. It's such a privilege to be working with the creator of the universe, the God of all creation. It is such a privilege, and that is something that she said. And then listen to what Urori said. God will not put you in front of people to galvanize change without first pruning you. Woo! If I did not unequivocally state that 2024 has been my year of pruning, I would be doing my work and you an injustice. This year has been very, 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 very weird for me. If you watched a couple of my videos ago, I told you it started off as such a dream. And jiggy, hey bo! Things, because that's what pruning is, right? It's things being cut off. It's a trimming so that what's left is only what's essential, and what doesn't matter and what will not help in the growth of this thing gets shaved off. Guys, losing love, losing money, sometimes even losing my sanity or what I thought was sanity. This year has been proper challenging, and I'm realizing that I'm being pruned. And not just for pruning's sake, not just because God is scissor happy and he just wants to make my life hell or he wants me to feel pain, but because if he's going to use me to galvanize change in this world, I can't go there I can't go there with jagged edges. I can't go there unrefined. I have to be pruned. And this has been my year of pruning. And you know how when people have horrible and tough years, they're like, I can't wait for this year to end. I can wait for this year to end because something in me is like, it can't end like this. It's been so tough. It's been so challenging. I can't end it like this. Lord, do something that will redeem this year. But it's been very, very challenging. And maybe this even speaks to somebody who's been having a hard time. Because I know for some people this year hasn't been easy. Just ask yourself, Lord, are you pruning me? And if you are, what are you pruning me for? And the beautiful thing is, if you are in alignment, you have an understanding of what God is doing, even when you don't understand it immediately. But when things like these are said, it makes sense. But when you're not in alignment, it just feels like, are you being pruned or are you being punished? So for me, who's in alignment, who's walking out this life, who's doing this thing, it makes sense why I'm being pruned, because God wants to use me to galvanize change. The next thing she said was that there are no seasons with God. We always say, oh, what a difficult season. Oh, in this season of my life, there are no seasons with God, because God uses every opportunity, every moment to work on us. So if you think, Uguti, this is a season of God working on me, this is a season of, even in the happiest of your moments, something can happen and God can use that opportunity, or God can use it as an opportunity to prune you. So us thinking that our life is like this, my ebbs and flows, ups and downs, maybe there's a bit of fallacy, because there are no seasons with God. And this this resonated with me a bit, because there was a time I went onto my Instagram and I asked people, why do we say to people when they're going through something difficult that this season will pass, this too shall pass, don't worry, this is a season of your life? What if that is your life? What if, Njewela, you were destined to experience what you're experiencing? And I'm not even saying this to be morbid, but when Aurori said this, it made me actually realize, Uguti, God won't wait. Uguti, this is a season for joy. This is a season for joy. It's in me until 5 years. Bessie, I'll present the other thing. You can start, and I know there's a lady who I absolutely love, Deshona Barber. She won, I think she won Miss USA in 2016, and shortly after, her mom died. That was a season of jubilate. If we're looking at season of jubilation for her. She's reached this milestone that she had been doing for, I think, 8 years. She'd been failing at pageantry year after year after year after year after year. And on the last year of her qualifying, she made it. But her mom died. And so what do we call that season then? Is it her season of confusion? Because on the one hand, she's celebrating this amazing thing, but she's also grieving her mom. And this made me really confirm what Surori was saying, that God will use every opportunity at every point in your life, whether you're experiencing the bliss of life or the torture of death, to use, to prune you and to do something in you that is going to help you grow. Hey, do you sometimes catch yourself thinking, is this really it? Is this going to be my life for the next 10, 20, heck, 40 years? I totally get it. Irrespective of the fact that you've done all the right things, climb the corporate ladder, hit your goals, somehow something feels off. That excitement you once had, gone. You're feeling stuck, like you've explored every corner of your career, but now there's nowhere left to go. But what if I told you that being stuck is actually a signal that your purpose is calling you to a new chapter, a chapter where you're fulfilled, impactful, and are able to reinvent yourself however many times you need to without ever feeling bored again. That's exactly why I'm hosting a free masterclass called Where is My Purpose Taking Me Next? It's happening soon. And if you're feeling what I've just described, this is the event of the year for you. Don't let the feeling of being stuck hold you back from what could be the most exciting chapter yet. Waza, let's work together to unlock your next step. Reserve your spot now, and I'll see you at the masterclass. Yeah? And trust me, this is not the masterclass you want to miss. See you there. And then she said, a life well lived is a life God is pleased with, not that people approve of. A life well lived is a life God is pleased with, not that people approve of. Nomdeni said to her, why did it take you so long to say yes? Because we've seen you do all this other work, but only now are you emerging as this woman of God, this woman of valor. Why did it take you so long to say yes? And she said, it's because of you guys. All of you sitting here, it's because of you. Because I thought, this does not look like success in the world's eyes. Success is this car. It's this stage. It's this opportunity. And so because I wanted you to approve of me, I was saying no to the only person that truly matters. I was saying no to the only way to truly succeed. And so this really challenged me to say, when I think about success, and remember the thing we said in the beginning, right? The question I asked Uguti, do we think that something is God's confirmation when we only see success in that thing? And Urori came and said, a life well lived, or success, is a life that God is pleased with. And so if your life is not pleasing to God, you're not living a successful life. It doesn't matter what you have, what you're doing, who knows you or who you know. If God is not pleased with your life, that life is not well lived. That life is not a life of success. And then she said, Lena, I think it got every one of us flawed. She said, make decisions from who you truly are and not who you think you are or who you want to be. There have been decisions that I've made in my mind thinking, Gutsi, I'm gonna give an example now. I made a financial commitment beginning of this year. Last year. At the end of last year, I made a financial commitment. And in my mind, I was like, I think at this point next year, my business would have amassed this amount of money. And so it makes sense for me to make this financial decision because I'll be able to back it up with the revenue that's still coming. Make decisions based on who you are in the moment, not who you think you are. And I wonder how many of us are making decisions based on who we think we are and not who we truly are. And she says, if you don't want to deal with the real you, you're not going to see growth happen. You want to enjoy fruit, but you don't want to fix the root. Fix the root and then you'll enjoy the fruits. Make decisions based on who you are. And I'll give an example with myself. So, I decided to go on the 75 hard challenge. This challenge needs you to work out twice a day. Both those workouts need to be 45 minutes long. The one needs to be outside. You need to drink 4 liters of water. You need to read 10 pages of a book. You need to, what's the other thing? There are so many other things. Okay, I don't think so many, but, or you need to take a picture to say this is what I've done, whatever. The thing with this challenge is if you skip one day, so if one day you only drank 3 liters of water instead of 4, tomorrow you must start over on day 1, even if you are on day 72. If you don't do the thing that is required every day to do, you must go back to day 1. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I hate working out. I struggle to even have one workout in a month. 2 workouts in a day. I don't drink a lot of water, and I should. From drinking 500 milliliters of water to 4 liters a day. This challenge is difficult. And and I'm going to talk about the 75 hard challenge another time, because I really want to get into the nitty-gritty, because God has convicted me about this challenge. But the truth is, maybe I should have started with 75 soft, because at least to 75 soft requires 1 workout. And so if you make decisions based on who you think you are, I'm like, oh, I'm very disciplined. Me, I'll do 2 workouts. Yeah, I'll drink. No, Sissy, you can't. At least not yet. So we need to be very, very honest and real and truthful about who we are and make decisions from that place, because we run the risk of making decisions that are too big for us and then embarrassing ourselves. And if you profess to know God and to be guided by Him, you embarrassing yourself would be you in effect embarrassing Him, because you weren't truthful about the decisions you made based on who you think you are and not who you are. And then I think, this wasn't a question. As they were talking, I had a question that I wrote down here, that does obedience have a guarantee? And the answer is yes. And as Urori was speaking, she made us believe, or she gave the impression that the guarantee of obedience is God's image and His protection of it. God has an image to uphold, and He wants to protect that image. And so it's really upon Him to bless your obedience. And the Bible does talk about all the blessings of obedience, right? The guarantee to you obeying is knowing that even if God doesn't do it for you, He will do it for His image and to protect His image. And I was even saying to my videographer that I've gotten to a point where I'm like, Lord, the world knows that I profess You as my Lord and Savior, that I'm obeying You and I'm living out this life because You've instructed me to. If this doesn't work out, they won't be like, yeah, what did she think she was doing? What I thought I was doing was following You. And, I removed all ego and all of those things. And in the end, I was left with, actually, this is my call. This is God's call on my life. And so if it doesn't work out, puppy, it's your image. And so the guarantee for obedience, if you're ever wondering, is there a benefit? Is there a point to obey? Know that the guarantee God places, it's like His image is surety for you taking the risk to obey. Because it is risky. It is very risky to leave behind what you can do in your own strength. Leave behind the life you know to say, I'll say yes to God. And the guarantee is His image and His protection of that image. And that was Aurori Sangtandeki. So, and then the next fireside chat that they went to, let me see here. Was the Live Well fireside chat. This one, and I think I say this with every one of the chats, but this one was so beautiful. Most of my notes come from this fireside chat. It was being moderated by Tanya Habimana. Yeah. And the lady who was speaking there was Lucy Balimba, who's the CEO of Entelo Communications. And we also had Chipo. I think Chipo she does technology at Nedbank. You may have seen her from one of Nomdeni's podcast episodes. This one, they were particularly focusing on us bringing God into corporate, or living out our Christianity and our spiritually boldly and loudly and proudly, even in a space that really doesn't call for it, right? So, Chipo said, God has nobody else on this earth but us. We are his hands, his feet, his eyes, his mouthpiece. And he was saying, guys, she was saying, guys, do you realize, Uguti, God only has us? Well, as his ambassadors, the ambassadors of the kingdom, his children. He has us. And so if we're not doing the work, who else can he rely on? You know, the Bible talks about if God's people will not go out and spread the message, the rocks will cry out in silence. And that scares me, because what that is saying is God will use the most useless of things. Well, useless to us, because when you look at rocks, you're just like, what's the point of this? He'll use the most useless of things to get his mandates across, because the most useful things he created don't want to do the job. Us not saying yes to the call is us basically... Shame, man. I can just imagine you creating something and you're like, "Yabole, the stove will warm up my food." And then the stove is like, "Sorry, I just want to be a decorative ornament." What do you do with that thing? And I think when she said that, she was really conscientizing us of, guys, do the work, because God only has us here on earth to do the work. And then they also said, if a space needs you to edit yourself to exist in it, you have to remove yourself and trust that God will meet you where he wants you. And this is so big. And I want to talk about this even in terms of relationships. If a relationship causes you to shrink, if a workplace causes you to shrink, that you have to work in the confines or in the scope of this thing. If your CV causes you to shrink, you know that it's time for you to exit that space. And I think they were talking mostly about shrinking or edit yourself in terms of really being faithful and truthful, even in the profession of who you believe and why you believe. And so I really just want us to think about that. What spaces are you currently in that require a version of you that doesn't really please you? A version of you that is edited, that is modified, because the real you wouldn't be acceptable in that space. Maybe it's time that you rethink your role in that space, or maybe even the space altogether. And then Lucy, Gazu Lucy, she's become somebody that I admire and appreciate so much. This is what she said. God calls us first to rest before service. And then she's asked the question, why do you think God created man on the 6th day and the very next day is a day of rest? It's because he first calls us to rest in him before he puts us out to service. And this was so beautiful, because there's a song that we sing in the choir that I sing in. And the song we sing is, "Come to me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." I found myself a couple of weeks ago saying to God, I don't know what this song means. I don't know how to come to you for you to give me rest. I don't know how to take your yoke upon me and bearing your burden because it's light. I don't know how to do that. And I was really wrestling with that. I was just like, I don't know what it looks like. You know, I was reading this morning about the fruit of the Spirit, and one of them is peace. And the root word for peace in that scripture is actually rest. So a fruit of the Spirit is rest. And what I find is a lot of us are walking in our flesh and we're wondering why we are not experiencing rest. Whereas if we walk in the Spirit and we are completely governed by the Spirit, we will experience the fruit of the Spirit, that is peace, aka rest. And so when Lucy said, God calls us first to rest before service, it sort of answered that question of, I don't know how to come to you, I don't even know what that means. That rest first. Rest is not a reward. Rest is a right. You've been given the right to rest. And so if you can teach yourself to rest in me, to get the command and the charge from me, and then go out in service, uzoba right. I thought that was so profound. Like, God created us a day before the Sabbath, so the very first thing that we get to do is to rest and then to work. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And another thing they said is you are a data point for how people know God in the world. So given that you are a data point, what are people finding out about God's nature and God's character in the things you do, in how you do them, in the things you say, in how you say them, in the work you produce? What are people saying about God? Is God seen as a sloppy man because you're not excellent? Is God seen as a crude man because of how you handle people? Is God seen as somebody who's unreliable because you are unreliable? What does the world get to know about God based off of reading you as a data point? That for me was just like, I have a huge responsibility, because if people are seeing sloppiness, if people are seeing nonsense, that is such a reflection on God, and He's not those things. And then they said provision follows purpose. Provision follows purpose. I don't even think I need to elaborate on this. A lot of us are scared to pursue the work that God has called us to, because we're just like, I want to pay the bills. How will I be provided for? Provision follows purpose. They also said obedience costs everything. Obedience costs everything. So give everything it takes. And again, going back to what Rory said, that is there a guarantee then for this obedience if it's going to take everything? Yes. God wants to protect His image, and He will protect that image. It costs everything, but also God is such a rewarder of those who do good. If it takes, everything that it takes is everything that you don't need anyway. Everything that it takes is everything that you can do without, because you've got God. And nothing that He allows to leave your life, He cannot replace tenfold. So just trust Him. And then they also said, if God can get it through you, He will get it to you. And this is very difficult for people particularly who teach, right? Because you see your lessons benefiting somebody's life. And then you reach a trough in your life and you're like, I taught that person that, and look, they're thriving. What about me? And I need you to, in this moment, just know that if God could get it through you, He can definitely get it to you as well. And another thing that they really mentioned was, don't squander the privilege of knowing God. It's such a privilege to know God. And if you squander that privilege, you're losing out on so much. The fact that you know God and are called according to His purpose, the fact that He speaks to you and has given you Holy Spirit, that has given you gifts, that is such a gift to treasure. Don't squander it. And Ulusi shared a testimony that last year, the world around her was falling apart. Last year, everything was just crumbling. And she said one thing that God taught her, one thing that she's teaching other people now, because she's since recovered, is that when the world is falling apart, you remain at Christ's feet. She had to make so many adjustments, downgrade, do this and that. The world was falling apart, but God has restored her in a way where she looks at the things around her and she's like, is this my life? Because when everything else around her was falling apart, she chose to sit at the feet of God. She chose to remain. And so if there's one thing you do for yourself, however challenging things get, remain. Don't leave the position of God's feet. And then they said, we are participating in a finished story. Ours is to rest in the fact that no matter how it looks, this story is finished. This fight is rigged, and it's rigged in our favor. So we just need to rest. And then there was another fireside chat. I think this one had, I'm going to be very brief on this one. It had Fumani, Mtembi, and Kelly and Ayuk. And two things that they said was, every storm runs out of rain. You just need to know how to regulate yourself. And it goes back to what Lucy was saying, right? So even though the storm can really be raging around you, every storm runs out of rain. You won't be in the storm forever. And when the rain is dry, find yourself in the best position at Jesus' feet. But even as a storm is going on around you, all you need to do is know how to regulate yourself. Don't try to control the storm. Don't try to control God, because you can't. Just regulate yourself. And then they said, don't be afraid to pivot. As many times as need be, just don't be afraid to pivot. And the final one, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to share this one. But this panel was with Nedbank and Musidi. Musidi was also part of the panelists, and they were talking about financial abuse. I'm not gonna lie, I was triggered. I was triggered by that conversation, and it's because right now everything that's got to do with abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, really, it gives me heart palpitations. And it gives me heart palpitations because, as they were talking, it gave me so many flashbacks and so many realizations. And the realizations was, when you look at something in hindsight, you're just like, actually, that wasn't right. Actually, when that was said, it was leading to an abuse of sorts. When that was done, it was actually quite abusive. And more than anything, I think I even put my phone down because I was taking notes on my phone, right? I put my phone down and I said, I'm just going to listen to this. I don't want to reflect. I just want to listen. Because, we were hearing from Musidi, who just left her marriage. And she was talking about the financial abuse she endured there. And as I was sitting there, I was thanking God for what could have been my life, let me just share the points that were shared there. I was highly, highly triggered. And Umusidi was like, as the wheels turn, you don't see them turning, right? It's just very subtle. You only feel the consequences later. You realize later. And there was a psychologist who said, no, actually, you do see the wheels turning. You do feel the wheels turning. You're just blinded by love. You're blinded by, hey, I want to make this thing work. No, man, that session was very triggering for me. But here's what they said. They said there's no such thing as potential. It's either you are something or you are not. So a lot of the times, people, and this was what the psychologist was saying, Guti, a lot of the times we put ourselves in these abusive situations because we think, oh, I see potential in this person. Oh my gosh, even talking about this is actually... You see potential in someone. You see them for what they can be, for who they can become, for what they can do, knowing full well that they're not that person. And so the psychologist, her name is Ketso Murosi. She's saying there's no such thing as potential, guys. It's either somebody is that thing or they're not. And if they're not that thing, run away. Just run away. If they are, great. If they are not, don't look for potential because cool. Especially at our age. Like, I'm 30. I don't expect to be meeting a man who's 35, who's 40. Also, I said potential. There's no such thing as potential. Dr. Frank, who works at Nedbank, said something so beautiful to Musidi. He said, I'm so glad that you are sharing your story here today. And he said, when you share your story, it means you are prepared to give your audience a gift. And oh, what a gift Musidi was. In fact, all the ladies and the guys on that panel that shared their story gifted us such amazing reflections, such amazing moments, such amazing gems. And I really, really just want to iterate again, Guti, don't be afraid to be in these rooms where people are gifting you their stories. There's so much to learn from people's stories, but also give people the gift of your story and see how their lives change. Then they said, no matter where you are on the spectrum, no matter where you are on the spectrum of joy, don't switch off your brain. She says, if Unomdeni got married when she was very, very young, right? And she says, she was in love. Yeah, she was experiencing so much joy. But, there are those warning signs, those red flags. And she says, no matter where on the spectrum of joy you are, even if you are at the end of the spectrum where you are experiencing so much joy, don't switch off your brain. When it's time to talk investments, don't say my man will handle it. Sit on that table, talk and research and do whatever it takes so that nobody has power over you enough for them to abuse you. When something is wrong, when something is off, bring it up. If you feel there are questions you can't ask, it's a problem. You know that something is off. So don't switch off your brain because, oh man, if I ask this question in next variety, don't switch off your brain no matter how happy you are. And the final thing that was said is you never know who someone is until they don't get what they want. Pay careful. When I tell you this session just triggered me, I don't even, nothing I said here's about finance. Nothing I said here's about finance. But essentially, I don't even think they were there to teach us about finances. They were there to really conscientize us on how financial abuse can occur, but abuse of any nature. And he said, you know who somebody is when they don't get what they want. And look out for those things in the little things. Because the big things will shock your system. Ask me, I know. They will shock your system. Your whole body, if it doesn't go into cardiac arrest, you will go into a spasm. You will not be okay. The little things, the temper tantrums, the punishments, the passive aggressiveness, look out for those things. When somebody doesn't get what they want, that's how you know who they truly are. Overall, guys, Agenda Woman was just phenomenal. It was exactly the thing that I needed from God. I'm so glad that Mbonane invited me. I didn't have to cough up anything. It was like 2,000 Rand. And I went there free as a bunny because God just favored me and he wanted me in that room. And I'm so glad I was in that room. And I really just want to encourage, when these things are being advertised and marketed to you and put out, don't reject the opportunity to be there for yourself. Being there with influential women, and even women like you, if you're not completely influential in your sphere, being with people who are on an agenda, people who are like-minded, people who are ambitious, people who are accomplishing so many things, it's so, so special. I'm so grateful that God used that event to really talk to me and to gear my mind back to, Mpumi, this is what I've called you to. And I know you can do this because I've given it to you. I haven't just given you the vision. I've given you the ability to carry it out. I've given you the skills. I've given you the heart, the passion. I've sent the people to you. I've opened doors for you in the past that you can just simply revisit, but for the mission that I have for you. You know, to be there and to hear God say, hold on, however challenging it is, it's just proof that you are only now you're starting to live. Only now you're starting to exhibit signs of life, signs of somebody who's actually doing what I've called them to do. It was really a beautiful, affirming hug from God to say, you're on the right track. You didn't hear me wrong. Just do what I've asked you to do, and I will make the provision. And not just financially. I will make provision in terms of rooms, in terms of stages, in terms of sanity, in terms of health, and in terms of finances. I will provide for you just as long as you stick on this road of your purpose and you do the work that I've called you to do. I hope this has given you so much to chew on. I know I said a lot, but I hope I've given you so much cud to chew on. I've given you meat to keep digesting and really thinking through. And I hope that I've given you enough encouragements that when Mbonane says, guys, let's meet again, August 2025, you run and you don't walk to get yourself a ticket, especially if it's on early bird. Get yourself that ticket and be in the room, because what she is doing there, what God is doing through her, is so phenomenal, and you don't want to get left behind. Please subscribe to the channel. Right now, I'm giving you 2 seconds. Subscribe. Are you done? Great. Please like this video. Are you done liking? Okay. There's that arrow that says share. Please share this video on your status, on your whatever other platform. Okay. Once you're done with all of that, comment your thoughts. Tell me what you thought about this entire discourse. And I'll meet you again next week with another video. Bye.